Sustainability is increasingly important for Colgate. It is important for our stakeholder in general, for our consumer, but also for our employees. You know, it is very clear, in particular with millennials, when they join Colgate, they want a sense of purpose. So, you know, we are very active in terms of sustainability. We keep it low profile, but increasingly important in the way we manufacture, in the ingredient we select, in goals that we have internally to reduce the amount of water we use to produce each ton. We reduce the amount of electricity that we use for each ton of manufactured product. And we have KPIs, we have objectives. So we move from some ingredient to other ingredient to be more sustainable. But that's not all. We also reinvest a lot in the underprivileged communities around the world. And for example, we've been doing a lot in terms of education. We've been educating and sampling product of hygiene to more than 600 million consumers, I mean mostly children, in emerging markets. Nobody else has done that in our field, but we keep it low profile.
In my industry, sustainability is absolutely critical. I run the Power and Industrial Technology team, or co-head of that group. I focus exclusively on the renewable space. Every company that I deal with in that space is focused on sustainability. An important factor here is what are the values that are changing the landscape, so to speak, and that's in the energy space and energy services. If you look at the future consumers of services, an example would be the millennials, right? The millennials in the US represent about 92 million people out of 300 million. They will represent a $1 trillion wallet share in the marketplace in the next 5 to 10 years. The millennial values are very focused on sustainability and renewability. So any company that I deal with, whether it's a service provider or a user, has to understand that those values have to be incorporated into their ethos in order to succeed. So it's very important in my sector, in my industry, that I focus on. There was a recent study done by Nielsen where they interviewed 300,000 millennials around the globe. And they asked them, what are the 20 top issues that you think we will face in the next few decades? The first one was water. The second one was sanitation. And the third one was sustainability and renewability. All of those were in the 60% range. More importantly, what came out of this study, which was fascinating, was how do companies that deliver in some fashion these critical values that you think are important affect your pricing, affect your ability to purchase product, and are you willing to pay a premium price for them? In Europe, 50% of the respondents viewed having certain values of sustainability and renewability as being critical to their purchasing decision, and they were willing to pay a premium price. In Asia, that number was 70%. In Latin America, it was in the 70s. In Africa, it was in the 70s. In the US, it was in the 50s. The important point is, from 14 to 15, those numbers went up over 10 to 15% in 1 year. So the reality is shared values are critical in the context of my industry, where individuals are now focused on whether you are delivering something beyond the product. What are you doing for society? What are you doing for the environment? What are you doing for your community? All of these points came out in the study, which is fascinating. And what's happening now is my client base is realizing that that is critical for them as they go forward. So there is a very important connection between those values that people expect versus the values that you have as an institution.
Sustainability is an extremely important consideration for our firm. We are entrusted by state and local pension plans in America, sovereign wealth funds, and pension plans outside of the United States, families who are allocating capital to us. And what we do with that capital is important to them and to us. So we have responsibility as owners of businesses to the communities in which they operate, to the employees, to ensuring their futures, to the environment. So everything we do is with an eye to the broader responsibility that we as owners of businesses and allocators of their capital have to the communities at large that these companies operate in. And we have in every investment, we assess what it is we're going to do to the company and how that will affect each of those constituencies, the employees, the environment, the regulators. And it's a very important consideration in what we do.
So sustainability is in everything that we do. And if you think about what our two twin goals are, it's about alleviating poverty and it's about creating shared prosperity sustainably. So that concept of sustainability cuts across every industry and every sector that we touch. And we spend a lot of time looking at global warming, looking at how investments that we're making, both at the government level and in the private sector, may or may not be affected by global warming, sustainability, and other issues that are arising from that.
Sustainability is very, very important and has very, very different meanings. So one meaning of sustainability for us is that we are long-term oriented as a company. Our business is for the long term. So that's, by the way, more typical in my experience of family companies. Family companies tend to be longer term oriented and they tend to believe that the long-term sustainability of the company is the strategic priority. And so that's the first aspect. The second aspect is sustainability in terms of respect of the environment, respect of the communities in which we operate. And so we have all a very important internal, we call it actually responsibility strategy, that make us a very, very responsible citizens wherever we operate, with employees, stakeholders, and community. The third part of sustainability is where we want to make an impact as a company. So improve the world in which we live. And in that area, we have chosen philanthropic activities, mainly in the health protection area, like breast cancer research, AIDS funds, where we have a lot of philanthropic activity via our brands to help the world to take care of diseases which are the most important, particularly for women, which are the consumer we serve more in the world.
Sustainability is incredibly important in my business. Number one, we are serving consumers who are looking for a new definition of home as they age. People who can no longer live in their traditional home, who will relocate to a home where we can provide them a wellness-oriented lifestyle. That is a very, number one, educated consumer. Sustainable business practices mean a lot to that educated consumer, whether it be sustainable building practices or sustainability programs. I actually think that we have to add the concept of aging to the broad sustainability topic. We have to focus on the sustainability of our aging population. So we have to be, my company's engaged on a day-to-day basis in ways to keep an aging population that is increasingly frail and demented sustainable.
Sustainability is critically important for any business who wants to survive forever and live forever. And I started a business with the idea that it would live forever. So you want to make sure that anything you do in the business, how you treat your employees, how you treat your clients, how you treat the innovation process, how you reinvent yourself, is all geared towards making sure that you will sustain your competitive advantage indefinitely. For many industries that are much larger than my business may be, sustainability takes many different forms. It takes the form of taking care of the environment, of the community, And to some extent in my business, it does as well. But I'm not a huge firm. I'm a large firm within my space. But I do not have the impact of many large global competitors that in a way they have to set an example, that they are aware. More so than their governments, the local governments may be aware of what needs to be done to fulfill the broader needs of the population from which you're going to take products, you're going to hire people, or you're going to sell your products towards. That awareness, and rather than use the word sustainability, I would like to use the word awareness. Be aware you do not operate in a vacuum. You have to be aware that you're surrounded by all kinds of forces, and those are the dots in the space that at some point you have to tie up and figure out in what way they should be influencing the way in which you manage your business.